Evening, everybody. My name is Austin Ohu of TMMS. I would like to welcome everybody to today's webinar. It's a very interesting topic. Just before we start, and I'm sure I will also announce it at the end, that the registration of mentees for the next batch of mentorship program is ongoing. If you have not seen the link, please look out for it in your chapter or in your set, or go to THSOSA Facebook page and avail yourself of this opportunity. It's open to everybody that needs some form of mentoring or the other. So please, let's take this opportunity. I think the registration will close on the 20th of May. So we still have a couple of days to do that registration. So that's just an announcement there. So to the business of the day, I would like to welcome everybody to this webinar. For those that are watching, the topic is very interesting, and to guide us through today is a wonderful moderator who has graciously accepted to moderate the program for today. He is no other than our own Tega Agbosa. Tega Agbosa is a corporate and commercial lawyer with vast experience in technology and financial transactions, giving financial advice. He can help in financial dealings, private equity, fundraising, and mergers and acquisition. And he's also a business owner and entrepreneur. So Tega is of the 1997 set of DS Itenka High School and is currently the chairman of Lagos chapter of THS Old Students Association. So please join me in welcoming Tega Agbosa to the webinar this evening. So Tega will be our moderator. So over to you, Tega.
Okay, thanks, Austin. I don't know if everyone can hear me properly. There seems to be some downturn in my internet.
We can hear and see you clear and loud.
Loud and clear, yeah.
All right. Okay, great. So, welcome everyone. I'm pleased to be moderating this session. And, you know, at a time like this, it's really timely that we're having this webinar on this topic. It's no longer news that the world is going through strange times. You know, on the one hand, you have the pandemic, you have everything that we've come to consider as the new normal and the challenges that come with that. But us as Nigerians, we're also going through our own unique challenges, you know, and quite frankly, all of that has had a significant impact in a lot of people. And it is imperative that we ask ourselves and also be convinced that these challenges do not define us and does not mean that there can be no stability in the midst of this unstable world, which is the topic that we're talking about today. And we have a distinguished member of the association who will be giving us an insight on how, despite everything that we're going through, we can find some form of succor and stability, particularly mental. And so it's a pleasure to invite Omoye Fishinton to do justice to this topic. We will please put our questions towards the end. I have my questions already prepared, but if you have your questions I would encourage you to just keep that to the end, and then we will take them, and hopefully we will be better enlightened on this topic. I would also plead with everyone that you mute your mics if your mic is enabled, just so that only when it's time to speak that you do so. So without further ado, Omoye, please, the floor is yours.
Hello, everyone. As has been rightly said, my name is Omoye Fishinton, and I am pleased to take this topic today, finding stability in the midst of instability. So the goal is to ensure that we are able to remain focused or stable in an unstable world. Now, the aim of this discourse is to know the importance of mental stability, to know the influence of several factors that can affect our stability, and to develop strategies in maintaining stability. So progress by, first of all, wanting to define stability with regards to what our focus is on. So stability is the ability to remain same, not subject to change. And for this discourse, we'll be focusing more on emotional stability, which refers to a person's ability to remain stable and balanced despite change or challenges. Now, this means that when one faces unpleasant or pleasant situations, the ability to remain balanced shows that the person is emotionally stable. We can therefore say that an emotionally stable person can withstand challenges that life throws at him and still be productive and capable throughout all these changes and challenges. You should note that when a challenge occurs, either positive or negative, it can distort our balance. As we make progress, we'll discover factors that generally influence our stability. Our emotions are very powerful, and they can influence our thoughts, our decisions, and also our actions. So I'd like you to think of an ugly experience. There was a time in Nigeria that most of the commercial banks had to let go of their staff. It wasn't necessarily because these persons were unproductive. It was just because there was some entire units had to be scrapped, restructuring had to occur. So now imagine a young man, he comes to work and he's, full of life. He has his schedule for the day. And then he sees that he's trying to log on and he's unable to gain access. He finds out that he's out of job. He definitely has financial obligations. Could even be that he's taking a credit facility to sort out some personal issues. All of these can be very draining. Depending on his stability emotionally, his actions will then play out. Now, I'd like you to also picture a pleasant event, such as promotion at work. So let's say that this is the promotion that you have been waiting for probably 3 years and more, and all of a sudden something happens at work and then it's your turn to shine and get promoted. Definitely comes with increase in income, probably a nice car, just wonderful incentives. At that point, you're in a joyous moment and the world is such a beautiful place, right? Then, depending on your stability, when all these kind of things happen, the friends can come out and say, oh, let's hang out, let's celebrate. And so the merriment begins. Depending on how stable the person is, the merriment can be taken out of control. Some people can even drink and get drunk, which can result in putting themselves and others in harm's way. So that is how powerful our emotions with relations to our stability can be, whether pleasant or unpleasant circumstances. Depending on how stable you are, the outcome will then show. Generally, to handle our emotions better, we need to acknowledge that problems exist. We do not have to be in denial and act like, all is well. No, then it means that you're living in denial. Someday it will all surface and you. You do not then have to let your experiences affect your values, your personalities, the person that you are, that you have taken time to shape in. Okay, now this doesn't mean that you shouldn't learn from experiences that you have, but working and generally living in a frantic environment has a way of also stressing us out. So even when you have no job, your mind is constantly busy. When you have a job, you're thinking, oh, is my income going to be enough? How do I cope with the expectations that I have? So we're going to now focus our attention on factors that can influence our stability. And the first factor that we'll be looking at would be emotional factors. We have cultural backgrounds where some persons have grown up in a loveless environment. Could be that the parents just do not have the time, or they grew up with guardians and relatives, and so it's just a cold environment. This can shape in their mentality as they grow. There are some other instances where the male gender is reverenced. So young girls and women are taught to save them and, be at their beck and call and do everything for them. Now, for a young girl growing up that now has a little form of exposure, this can be draining. Some cultures also teach that women should be relegated to the background. They shouldn't even be seen or heard. So for a woman who has taken time to groom herself and get some form of education, it then means that she constantly has to struggle, constantly has to fight to be heard, so this can be depressing. There are other instances where men have very high expectations. So it becomes a man's responsibility to handle every financial obligation with no support or help from any angle. And so in an attempt to try to meet up with his financial demands, especially with the current situation that we have in our country, it becomes really draining. So it's a man's inability to, attend to his financial responsibilities have even driven a lot of men to contemplate suicide, especially because of pressure, feeling of shame, and worthlessness. Another environmental factor that we'd like to consider is personality. Some persons are introverted, unintentionally, by the way. The THS environment had a way of making us, just be by ourselves. When you go out, see that what you're seeing out is not what you're used to, because a lot of persons who went through that environment grew up in a close-knit area where you have people with similar behavior. So unintentionally, you might begin to feel proud. Some people are even outrightly shy and have low self-esteem. Now, this can lead to feeling of superiority of some form. And considering the fact that such individual feels that he's above error, when he faces a challenge, can affect his emotion. We're going to be looking at education as the third environmental factor. People who are highly educated have a tendency to feel like they know it all. So this can be their downfall. On the other hand, not having enough knowledge can bring about a challenge. Another factor that we'll be considering is the physical factor. So this can be as a result of illness. It could be from an accident or a disease. So you start to feel like you're unable to function as you would when you were healthy. Diseases like the pandemic that we're experiencing now, a lot of people are scared. They do not know if they're going to infect their friends and family or workmates, so there's a whole lot of expectations. Oh, what do I do? What am I not doing enough of? How do I care for myself? Am I going to get the right medical attention? All of this can bring about trauma. There's also brain injury from drug and alcohol abuse, so all of these can limit an individual. It's a clear shift from what the person has been used to. The third factor that we'll consider is the emotional factor, which can be as a result of grief, death of a loved one. Person suffers emotionally as a result of domestic violence or relationship issues. There's also the issue of relocating. So when you relocate to a different country, a different locality, you start to ask yourself, how do I adapt? How do I make new friends? How do I meet people? How do I get a job? Could be documentation issues. All of this can be very exhausting. The birth of a child is another issue that a lot of people find challenging. Picture a scenario where a person who has little or no experience of raising a child, you are struggling with your finances as it were, and then you now have a child to cater for, you do not even understand the emotions that the child is expressing. It can be draining. On the mental side, we'll be looking at depression and anxiety. This can bring about issues with sleep, or you begin to have weight gain issues as a result of eating too much. Some persons just drown themselves with food. It's a comforting mechanism for them. And so you begin to experience weight gain, which can take a toll on your health, or weight loss as a result of just feeling hopeless, and so you're not eating enough. And so they begin to procrastinate on everything. Like, some people started this year by saying, oh, I'm going to have a fantastic workout schedule. I need to lose weight. But after the first week into the year, start to say, oh, I'm just fat. I didn't kill anybody. I can't kill myself. I'm doing the much I can. And before you know what is happening, they've lost focus. They start to feel worthless, and so there's a lot of trouble with concentration. You have memory issues. Your decision making becomes very, very poor. Financial stress can be really devastating. Issues with relationship and breakups, and then insecurity. You need to see the kind of security gadget that some persons have installed in their home, yet they jump at the slightest unfamiliar sound, so this can be mentally destabilizing. On the occupational side, having a difficult boss, this one can be technical, and bring about fatigue, especially where there's no clear job description. So when there's also inadequate training, can make one feel like you're inefficient. Even if you're a business owner, you do not have the needed training to run your business, it can bring about low productivity and poor turnover. You're working, it can cause withdrawal because you start to feel like everything that goes wrong is your fault. It can bring about shame. So there's conflict, you're angry, you carry the anger home, you're transferring to family members and even neighbors. There is also a greater danger for accident to occur as a result of wrong process. On the social side, loneliness and isolation, like in the case of introverts that we have talked about, can be really devastating. And like we said, it's actually unintentional. Now, the reason we have taken our time to explain all of these factors is because a lot of persons live through this on a daily basis without even knowing that there is an issue. So they take it as the normal part of their life without knowing that they are gradually become very unstable. So how can we then manage stability? Actually manage and maintain stability. So first we want to look at environmental factors. The mindset has to change, and it actually starts with you and I. We need to stop the perception of seeing people as this particular gender or that gender. We need to see people as individuals and then appreciate and accept them for who they are and what they can do. For couples, it's advisable to share financial responsibility. In fact, this is something that you should have discussion about before commitment, but then it's never too late to sit down and talk about your finances. You should stop having unrealistic expectations of people. Stop, that the economy is hard. Nigeria is gradually slipping into inflation, even though we try to act like there's no inflation and it's all good. So you need to stop the unrealistic dreams. You want a big house and you don't have money. You want expensive clothing. For ladies, especially the ones that really do not have a steady or a strong source of income. You want expensive hair, you want big parties, big weddings. You keep on buying, every wedding, you have to buy the asoebi. You need to have the fabric for the fabric. You need for the gathering rather. You need to show up. All of this costs money. Whether it's marriage, you're attending, child dedication, burial, prioritize. Okay, there's nothing wrong in buying asoebi, but then if you cannot afford it and it is not a part of your budget, then why do it? There was a case of someone who was getting married, and when I saw the list of events and everything, by the way, her fiancé had no job at that time. I was stunned. And I'm like, okay, how can you be having over 700 guests at your wedding? Cost of venue, clothing, cake, food, drinks. But then it then seemed like I did not want her to have the wedding of her dreams. So I'm like, okay, why not have something smaller, 50 people, 100 people, So I decided to let it be and then just watch. So they had sponsorship from family and friends, and they indeed had a very big wedding. In fact, at the reception, I had to leave because there was practically nowhere to sit. It was an overwhelming crowd. But to cut the long story short, that marriage has ended now. It lasted for less than 2 years. And why? Financial issues, constant financial issues. They had debt to pay, it was quarreling and bickering, and so they had to go their separate ways. So you do not necessarily have to be rich to become financially stable. Or on the other hand, you might have a good job, but it doesn't guarantee your financial stability. So imagine someone that works in Chevron having to borrow money from his colleagues because he has overshot his budget. Before the month ends, he has like a long list of people who he has to sort out financially. It can be overwhelming, and you begin to ask yourself, well, this person earns well and he has little or no savings. So you also need to learn to show genuine appreciation. When someone does something for you, the feeling of entitlement has to change. Gratitude for even the slightest things has a very powerful and positive effect. You need to learn to speak kindly to yourself. You need to speak kindly to your neighbors, your workmates, your kids, your staff. You need to learn to speak kindly. Simple words like thank you, please, I'm sorry. They go to show that you acknowledge the fact that the person exists, you appreciate whatever it is that they're contributing in your life. So you see that you're helping people, we're helping each other here. You're helping someone else to remain stable. Imagine your staff does something and the thank you that you say is genuine and probably have a nice smile on. Of course, you're helping that person to maintain mental stability. To maintain stability physically, the benefits of exercise cannot be overemphasized. In fact, exercise is a wonderful therapy. So you need to learn also to practice relaxation techniques. Now, when I say exercise, I do not necessarily mean that you have to continuously break your back at the gym. Okay, that's not what we're talking about. You can do simple works, aerobics, you can run around with your kids, you can walk around your house, just be physically active. You can do yoga, meditation, listening to nice and relaxing music. Then you must deliberately eat healthy. There are some persons, when they're experiencing a challenge, it becomes an opportunity to eat just anything. So you're ordering for this and ordering for that, and you're just eating food to bring some form of comfort to yourself. It will hurt you in the long run, okay? And you must schedule leisure time. Take out time to spoil yourself. Take out time to, go, even if it's just window shopping. Have some time for yourself. You shouldn't be just, work, work, work. Most importantly, you must at least have 7 to 8 hours of sleep at night. Then you must go for regular checkups. I hear Nigerians saying now, why fix it when it's not broken? What about maintenance? So if you have a beautiful piece of furniture in your house and you feel that it's not broken and you don't touch it, you're like, oh, why fix it when it's not broken? And then you're minding your business. You can get covered in dust. How about cleaning it? That is exactly how your body and mind is. So you do not have to necessarily wait for when you're sick to visit a doctor. Just go for a full body checkup. All of this can help prevent and manage illness. Even when one is ill, having a positive outlook and then focusing on getting better is actually better than self-pity, as self-pity does you no good. To enable us cope emotionally, you must learn to express your emotions. There's no Superman or Superwoman when it comes to managing emotions. There's nothing wrong in crying when you're down. Even the strongest people actually cry. But you must learn to repeat positive emotions to yourself and then work towards a healthy self-esteem. You must do well to avoid negativity and negative people. There's some people who are just bent on being pessimistic, regardless of whatever the situation is. They just tell themselves, oh, I'm hoping for the worst. At that point, you do not need such people around you. You need to choose your circle, okay? You do not also have to be at war with words. So when someone says something, you're reading in between the line and then trying to find faults or trying to find where the person has talked bad about. So just life is short. Just take it easy and learn to live life to the fullest as best as possible, as all of this is very unhealthy. You must also learn to speak kindly to others. There's word in, the power of the mouth. Mentally, you must have a positive outlook. So you need to be realistic. Now, there's nothing wrong in thinking big. However, being overambitious can be really detrimental. So you need to, be realistic, be frank with yourself. What can I do? What can I achieve? But then you must have a resilient attitude. So you need to keep pushing. You must find ways to be creative. If one door closes, find the next door that's available to be opened. Find your purpose and then focus on your strengths. Learn to show gratitude for the little things that you're able to achieve, and then have things to be thankful for. Just, you ask yourself, why do I exist? Who benefits from my existence? I hear people say, oh, I feel like I'm going to kill myself. But you need to ask yourself, who benefits from my existence? And then you let your day-to-day life reflect on your priorities. So for instance, if you tell yourself that, oh, you have XYZ amount of money and you're trying to set up a business, now that is not the time to focus on spending on anything that your mind tells you to buy. Remember that you have other financial obligations, probably have parents to care for, bills to pay. Occupationally, which is the fifth form of maintaining stability that we're going to be discussing, this also applies, by the way, to running your own business. As an employer, you need to learn to give your staff a clearly defined rule. It's not a case of one size fits all, no, so that you do not burn people out. As a business owner or as an employee, have a schedule, have a daily schedule. Now, when you want to draw out your schedule, you may have a schedule for an entire month or have things that you want to achieve within an entire month period, but then break it down to smaller schedules. And so you have a daily schedule, have like a to-do list. What can I achieve today? What do I intend to achieve tomorrow? That way you're able to establish doable goals based on the pillars that you're building on. Take a stock profile of your life. That's like an honest evaluation on your performance. You're the only one that can do that for yourself. So you can then find ways to be better as what you do. You can take short programs if you need to gain more knowledge to help you function better at work or, regards to your business. Do research online, just anything to help you be better. When you tell yourself that, oh, you need to achieve this XYZ goal, and then you see someone else doing it, find mentors, look at the person and, oh, this person is doing this thing I'm trying to do. How is the person coping? If it's possible, you can have a conversation with the person. So mentorship can never be overemphasized. You also need to create a structure. That way you strike a balance between work and home duties. You need to set limits. Some persons have sacrificed all their home duties for work alone. So they're working 100%. And when you just come home, you just tell the kids hello, and then you just go to your room and you mind your business. Next morning, you're out of the house. Kids are probably asleep or, gone to school. Now, you may feel that you have, fantastic domestic staff, and so you can focus on work alone, right? But then I'd like you to know that domestic staff are support staff. It is actually your role to run your home. So you do not need to sacrifice one for the other. In as much as work is important, you must find structures that can enable you function at both duties better. You do not need to be greedy. Do not let pressures push you into joining Ponzi schemes with big financial promises. This has gone a long way to ruin so many lives and relationships. They tell you, oh, the profits that you're going to get, it's too good to be true. Then tell yourself, if it's too good to be true, then it's too good to be true. I mean, how can someone come tell you you're making XYZ money and then you're going to do this within a short amount of time, or you're sitting down and you're letting your money work for you? It means it is actually too good to be, okay? So you do not let poor financial management lead you to not keeping to agreement. You need to learn to be prudent, learn to save. Some persons feel that the income they make is too little, so they are unable to save. Now, if you genuinely feel that way and you have a long list, you want to evaluate your list, have a budget first of all. So you'd want to evaluate the income that I have vis-a-vis my expenditure. How does that work? So I know that in Lagos, I had people who were working in VI, but they told themselves that they couldn't afford the rent in VI. So they went to live, further down the Lekki axis, Shongotedo and the likes. We felt the rent was cheaper. I mean, fantastic. It works for you. So that way you're able to save some money while you grow on the job. Okay. Now, if you need a side hustle, get it. For instance, if you tell yourself that, oh, I know how to play football, I really love football so much. How about putting kids together, probably after school hours or over the weekends, and forming like a mini club for kids? Is a way to keep children out of trouble, is a way to help parents manage the children while they're busy attending to other things. It's also a way for you to make some income for yourself. Or you can, make your environment, your home environment comfortable. These days I hear a lot of schools complaining that kids are not picked up after school hours on time because the parents do not close early from work. Now, when you make your home a functional place, tell them, oh, I can actually pick your kids and hold them for you while you're at work. Before the parents come, the kids have done their homework, probably, done a lot of other things that they need to do. So you're keeping the kids safe, out of trouble. The parents are working and you're making money for yourself. Now, this is actually different from what you call after school lessons that some people do. And that's also, by the way, very lucrative. You make some money for yourself, okay? You need to maintain financial credibility. Very, very important. You need to learn to keep to agreements. Now, imagine a person having to come to you to borrow some money. He borrows from you, you're like a circle of friends. And so one person is borrowing from everybody. By the time he's gone around from like borrowing from everybody and not keeping to the agreement, he starts to borrow from your friend's friend. So he's come to you, he borrowed from you, and in the course of interaction, he knows your brother or he knows your friend, and then he now leaves you because he has failed to keep to the promise, and he goes to your brother or goes to your friend to borrow. Unfortunately, some people have to live like this. So when you lose friends as a result of not paying back or keeping to promises, negative news flies fast. And when this comes back to you, it can be destabilizing. So you see that the world in general is already very unstable. And then you are creating an unstable environment for yourself. You begin to lose credibility. And definitely when there's a form of financial benefit that you can take advantage of, it definitely will not be called upon. On the social end,
just to mention that you have 3 minutes more for this.
Okay.
So just round up so we can go to the Q&A, because I see a lot of questions.
Okay, fine. We're actually on point. Okay, that's all right. On the social point, it is important to maintain and manage loving relationships. Now, maintaining relationships is actually a two-sided thing. It takes time to nurture relationships. It takes effort. It's never one-sided. So you need to learn not to be on the receiving end all the time. You have to practice giving your time, your energy, knowledge. Just be bankable. Whatever it is that you can give to assist anybody. Stop comparing your life with the life of others. You actually have absolutely no idea what they have to deal with. So you need to focus on your own life, focus on impacting on others positively. The current state of our country and the world in general is really disturbing. When you watch the news, chances are you'd see something negative, what you want to call bad news, and it's very draining. So do well to avoid the news if you have to. Just anything you can do to clear your head. Doesn't mean that you're in denial of what is going on in the world. It just means that you're trying to relieve yourself of some mental burden. One of my favorite quotes says that to live in the past is to die in the present, and that's by Bill Belichick. So it is indeed very possible to remain stable in the midst of all the instabilities that we have going on. Problems in the world probably never finish, regardless of how you try. It is how you choose to react and how you choose to, act according to the problems that determines your progress. Thank you.
Fabulous. Thank you, Omoye. That was quite insightful. And I know that from the questions that have been coming, and I know that even more questions are coming, that you've touched a nerve, at least one nerve in everyone that has been listening. But before I go to the questions that have been put forward, I have one that is that stems from what you said. You know, you said that one of the tools that you suggested is to choose your circle. However, even from the examples you gave, or the factors that could cause instability, mental instability, there are some that are, I want to say, outside of your control. So for example, if you are working in an environment, right, that is, for want of a better expression, toxic, in the sense that maybe you have a boss that is cantankerous, you have one that is abusive, but that employment is what pays the bill. And you do not want to be in that situation where you go from mental instability as a result of being abused in the workplace to mental challenges from worrying about where the next meal will come from. That's on the one hand, you know, as an example of a circle that you may not necessarily be able to choose. But even if you go further to one that is completely outside of your control, where you have, take for example, a person who is of marriageable age, having to deal with parents who are constantly on your case to get married or to provide them with grandkids, and who call you every day crying that you're still single, or crying that will they not be alive to carry your children or their grandchildren. These are circles that you can't get away from. How do you then strike a balance between being in that environment and finding solace through any of the methods that you have come up with? So if you could just share some suggestions on how to go about that. So the first one is in a toxic environment where you work, and the second is in a family, right? It might actually not even be that you live in the same house with those parents. You may be living far away, but they call you every day or call you in the middle of the night, right? How do you deal with that?
That's a very important question, and I'm going to go back to what I said before. You need to learn to find your strengths. Now, here's the thing: problems will never finish. Be it at work or from parents or from demands, you know, regardless of where they come from, in terms of having a toxic boss. And you know your potentials. Now you need to focus on why you even have the job in the first place. You have the job because it pays your bills well, and you're happy with what you do, as in you're good at what you do. So focus on your strengths. It is how you choose to react to the challenges that you have that determines how it will play out for you in the long run. So you need to tell yourself, I know why I'm here. I have done well to grow myself. However, I cannot change this person's perception or this person's behavior. It's out of your control. Then you need to find the structure. So you do not have need to have a situation where you're stressed at work and then you're home and you're stressed. You need to find other ways to have a clear head. You must learn to ignore certain things. If you pay attention to everything or every challenge that is thrown your way, you definitely will be doing yourself a lot of disservice. So you need to grow yourself to the extent where you begin to appreciate you for who you are. I don't know if you understand what I'm trying to say. When you appreciate you for who you are and you know your potentials and you're focusing on your strengths rather than another person's weakness, because a bad boss has a weakness. It shouldn't be that way. Everybody should be appreciated for whatever value that he can bring on the table. In the case of you have parents, you know, coming after you that you should get married or they want kids and whatever, that's actually out of your control, right? What do? The fact that you're even alive in the first place, the fact that you're existing for them and you're there to probably even care for them, is good enough. So that's not the time to start to focus on everything that is thrown at you. You become very destabilized. Have a structure that works for you so that you can keep a clear head at every given point in time, because we are actually in a generally unstable environment.
Thank you. We will come back to this question
All
because I know that it is one that, particularly in our environment, right, in our society, where we've given so much attention to some customary notions, right? And so you can have let me not even talk about a man now, right? Because they say it's a man's world, right? So you can have a woman who is the boss in her office, right? And doing everything right, getting all the accolades, getting all the recognition, professional and otherwise, but still feeling unfulfilled because of that. And because maybe she's not married or she doesn't have a kid. And let's remove that doesn't have a kid, because there are methods, right? You can adopt, you can go through IVF and all of that stuff, right? But the ones that are not married, because I'm trying to bring it closer home to the issues that we deal with daily, right? As opposed to some of the ones that are more academic in nature. So where do you get the strength? Because it's easier said that blot it out.
Yeah.
Than actually going ahead to blot it out. And it takes me to the question that Austin Owo sent, which is that taking an honest profile of your life or reflection, how do you get the best of this honest reflection without taking responsibility for, I believe that the question isn't complete, because I believe without taking responsibility, what would follow it is without taking responsibility as being the cause of that situation, right?
Yeah.
So how do you marry that?
Okay, now I'd like to say this. Your happiness is in your hands. Now, your happiness is in your hands until you decide to put it in the custody of someone else. Now, having said that, you must know that the cultural values that we have been with us, for as long as we can imagine, since creation, as it were. These things may never change. But then how you see yourself, this is no longer about what is happening in the world. This is now about you and how you want to see yourself. It's how you present yourself to the world that the world sees you. So for instance, yeah, everybody feels that you're successful at work, but then you feel like you're falling short because you probably do not have a marriage mate, or you do not have children, or whatever shortcoming that it has. It doesn't mean that you should be in denial and act like there's no problem. If it is your sole priority to have a marriage mate, begin to ask yourself, what am I doing about my social life? Or what am I doing to, mingle more? Or is it that I'm not finding the right people? How am I widening out? So you begin to it's part of having an honest evaluation, by the way. So begin to take stock of your life and ask yourself genuine questions. Have I been focusing too much on work? There are some works that, by the way, that they prefer you to be single so that you can have all your time to devote to the job. So you begin to take honest talk. Or have I been in the wrong circle? Have I been meeting the wrong people? Or are my standards, are my expectations in a certain way that keeps people away from me? Am I giving off unintentionally the wrong message? That's taking stock of your life. If you, however, see that this is how you've been living in a certain way that you're passing the wrong message. By the way, we live in a very global world. So we have books you can read. You can check information on the internet to guide you. You can talk to mentors and people who are mature enough to assist you with their own personal experiences and experiences of others. So all of this can help you evaluate yourself, and you begin to wonder, okay, so I have been responsible for certain things in my life. What can I now do to be better? So you're no longer focusing on what is happening in the world. That's the idea. The world is unstable and it may never change. You're focusing on how to be balanced regardless, how to focus, so you see that you're holding on to your strong points, whatever is happening behind your death. Doesn't mean that you're in denial, but because you're aware, you're doing things to be a better person. Yeah, I don't know if I've answered your question.
Thank you. I believe everyone who's been listening has gained an insight, and it doesn't necessarily have to be the examples that I gave. But Celestine has asked the question here, where he said, "How can one recognize mental stability in self?" And it is mental instability, and this really resonates with me because, as some of the people here may know, I went through an armed robbery experience a few weeks ago, 2 weeks ago. And it was quite, I'd like to say it was quite dramatic. I'm choosing my words carefully as opposed to saying it was quite traumatic, because through the event and post the event, I felt nothing. I mean, literally nothing. There was no fear. There was no sense of loss. There was no sense of panic. I felt absolutely nothing. I only pay attention to it now because I realized that in that moment, some of my reactions to other things were also one of absolute numbness, right? So situations that would ordinarily have triggered me to get angry, to get sad, I felt nothing, right? And so I had a lot of people say, "Oh, this is probably PTSD. Wait for it; it will come. You will, at some point, you will feel all of this stuff," right? So for those who have maybe one of those sort of experiences, or who are just in a funk, but do not want to attach it to anything, how do you then identify or recognize that I'm in this place that is unhealthy and I need help, so to speak?
Okay, so first of all, I want to say sorry about the incident. It can be very unpleasant.
Thank you.
However, prior to the incidents, you definitely would know how you'd function and how you'd attend to things. And so we're going to address the incidents as a destabilizing occurrence, which brings about a shift from the norm. But in your case, the shift is, you're not even noticing that there is a variation. But then when you have, like we said, an honest evaluation, you want to first of all consider how rested you are. How is your sleep? Are you sleeping better? Are you sleeping more? Are you undisturbed? Or have you just lost every form of consciousness about everything? What is your relationship with family and friends and other people that you'd be close to? How do you view work? What exactly was your loss during the experience? How important was the loss to you? Now, these are things that you'd want to, for instance, with regards to theft. If, for instance, my phone gets stolen, I'll probably freak out because my phone is like a mini laptop for me, and it's very functional. I do almost everything. I see people play games on their phone. No, I don't do that with my phone. I do everything on my phone is work related. So if it goes, it's like a huge part of me is gone, and it's definitely going to be destabilizing. So I'd want to be honest with myself. Oh, this thing actually affected me. But I wouldn't want to say in particularly that you're reacting this way because you're masculine, although the masculine gender has a way of hiding and suppressing emotions better than most females, okay? But then you first of all want to compare your life before the experience and then after the experience, and then see how you're living. That's the beginning, an honest evaluation. And then you begin to ask yourself, what have I lost? How has this played out in my life in general, and then going forward? How easy will it be to retrieve the things that I have lost? Recovery from theft is quite an ugly process. For instance, there was someone who I heard was on his way to the airport and he was robbed. So he lost his travel documents, passports, and everything. Even if he tries to put up an impression that everything is okay and he's trying to be strong about it, his experience loss. the cost of trying to recover from that loss and trying to do documentation, trying to block accounts and what have you, can be very exhausting. So it's going to take a toll on you, but in a different form, because now you're no longer blaming the stress that you're going through on the incident. You're blaming it on the process of recovery, your missing items or whatever it is that you have lost. So you need to be honest with yourself. Express your emotions. If you need to talk to someone about how you're honestly feeling,
I don't
go
know if
ahead
it's
and
just
do
me,
so.
but I think that we've lost your audio.
It's just you, Tegan.
We can hear you. We can hear her actually.
Oh,
I can hear
right.
you.
I can hear
Okay,
you.
thank you. I think it's
I
just
can
our
hear you.
moderator then.
Okay. I think it's sorted.
Okay, cool. So you're no longer blaming the exact incident. You're telling yourself that you lived past the incident. You're now blaming the process of recovering whatever it was that you lost for the feeling that you're having. If you honestly check yourself, could be living in denial. But then when you focus on the incident that happened and then you're trying to learn from the experience, you begin to ask yourself, how could I have protected myself? What could I have done better? Or, if it was a situation that was out of your control, you ask yourself, how can I prevent this from reoccurring? These are ways to bring yourself back to being stable, because when you do that, you become mentally aware of what you have been through, and then you find ways to remain normal. Going forward, you learn from the experience.
Thank you. In fact, the last things you said feeds into the next question I have, and it also ties into my experience. Again, I don't know whether to say it's unfortunate or it's fortunate that I'm able to give real life experiences to the questions. But you had mentioned comfort feeding, right? And Crimson, fortunately, I don't know if Crimson Ikbade is the actual name, but we'll go with Crimson, right? Said that she mentioned that she was guilty of comfort feeding, right? And Celestine then asked the question that, does comfort feeding really comfort the mind, and are there disadvantages? Now, tying that to my experience, yes, I did lose things that were quite expensive, right? But one of the things I did quickly was to replace them. I mean, like literally the next day, I started the process of replacing them. My car window that was destroyed, I quickly replaced. Every other item that was taken from me, I immediately replaced, because I wanted to get back to normal as quickly as possible, but also because these were things that I feel are part and parcel of my day-to-day life, right? And I needed to just sort that out quickly. Now, those things gave me satisfaction, right? Now, how does that, beyond the issue of weight, how does comfort feeding, for example, where that activity that you're doing is giving you comfort, right? Because I'm replacing these things and it's giving me comfort that I'm fixing it. But in the case of comfort feeding, you are maybe in either the taste of the food or the feeling. I don't mean feeling in terms of F-E-E-L-I-N-G. I mean feeling of F-I-L-L-I-N-G, right? Getting full gives you that succor. How does that translate to a solution? And on the flip side, what are the disadvantages?
Okay, so comfort feeding is actually something that a lot of people deal with on a regular basis. So it's a situation where you have a negative occurrence and then you decide to eat something. Most of the time it has to do with carbohydrates, which eventually break down to sugar. So you're doing sugar, and sugar has a way of messing up with your brain, and it tells you that you need more. That's what sugar does to you. So, but then aside from comfort feeling, I'm going to take I'm going to take some message from what you said, replacing your lost items. There are some persons who, when they are down financially, they just tell themselves, oh, what do I have? This is all the money I have. I'm going to drink with the money. So they rely on alcohol to make themselves feel good. They know that that's all they have. Or some people will be like, well, this is all I have and I'm shopping. I just want to make myself happy. Where the next money is going to come from, absolutely have no idea. Now, here's the thing. A negative occurrence is a negative occurrence. A loss is a loss. You do not want to incur another loss on top an already existing loss. So when it comes to feeding or eating anything just to make you happy, yes, it gives a temporary satisfaction. It actually does, but it's a thing of the mind, okay? It gives very temporary satisfaction. What it does to you is that definitely have food that hasn't been digested. So you're eating carb on top carb, and then you slowly begin to gain weight. If you already have underlying health conditions, it's definitely going to play out in the long run. So it is true that you're trying to satisfy a need, for instance, breakup or loss of job or something, and then you're eating to make yourself feel good. It's going to play out in your health negatively eventually. If it's a situation where, oh, you experienced the loss, you were probably attacked and robbed, and it was a loss. Having to spend money, if you have the finances to sort out the problem, fine and good, but then it's still a loss because the money should have been channeled, somewhere else. Probably must have been budgeted for something else. So it's still a loss. Something else is suffering for that to be done. So a loss is a loss. However, what you need to do for yourself is this: have an honest evaluation. Find out ways where you can save better so that you do not incur a loss on top another loss. So if you are eating to make yourself feel good, ask yourself, this food I'm going to eat, am I going to be able to use it up? Can my system digest it? How will it, affect me in the long run? If you're going to be doing purchases to make yourself feel good and you know that you do not have the finances, ask yourself, where am I going to get the next money from? How do I replace this? What is suffering for this to happen? If you're constantly doing that, you're not even learning from the experience because it looks like you constantly have a getaway, something to just hide under. So you're not learning, you're not growing from the experience. Allow yourself to grow from experiences and then find ways to solve them without incurring another extra loss.
Thank you very much for that. Because we started late, we will just extend this a little bit by 8 more minutes. So there's a question that was sent in privately from Austin Idoni. He says, having experienced successive setbacks and losses in one's life and career, what coping strategy does one deploy to avoid mental health issues like depression and commence recovery towards stabilizing one's life amidst the turbulent socio-economic environment we live in today?
Okay, unfortunately, that's the sad reality of a lot of persons, especially in Nigeria. So you see, you find yourself, you're trying to find your feet, and then you do something and it looks like it's turning out really nice, and then before you know what's happening, it looks like you're starting afresh. And so you have several starts. Now the first thing you need to do, like we have said previously, is to have an honest evaluation. What have I been doing? How have I been starting? So you can, for instance, ask, what kind of jobs have I been getting? Who have been my role models? If you need to change a career, for crying out loud, change one. If you need to relocate.
Omoye, sorry to
yes, I'm going to say that again. Yeah. If you need to change, yes, I'm going to explain why I said that.
Yeah, yes. Considering that the unemployment rate in the country is really high, it's a lot easier said than done, don't you think?
Now, here's the thing. When I say change career, I do not necessarily mean that you have to constantly go back to school and dust your CVs and then you're applying for jobs. No way. You need to re-strategize. Find your strengths. Where can I key in? Look around your environment. What's the need? There's always a want in every environment. Which area is not oversaturated? Which area am I needed? Now, here's the challenge that a lot of people have. They keep doing the same things and trusting the same people. They keep using the same process. So for instance, you say you're in oil and gas, and then you're doing, the same thing, and you see that you're starting afresh. Meanwhile, in the same industry that you're in, some people seemingly are progressing. So you ask yourself, do I belong here? Is this really for me? Where can I channel my energy? There could be something that, you have ignored all the while, and could eventually be the thing that would benefit you career-wise. So when you're changing career, it doesn't necessarily mean that you're dusting your CVs to go apply for jobs. No, we live in a country where we hustle for ourselves. So like I always tell people, you are your own government. So you need to make it work for you. Ask yourself, who are my friends? Who are the people I'm talking to? If you need to change location, yes, change location. The world being a global place, you can change location through the internet. So you can be seated in your home in Lagos or Abuja, Warri, as the case may be, and be online connecting with different people. Go online. What are the things people are doing now? What's the latest trend? Is it in my environment? How do I key in? What are the skills I need to key into this? Is this something that I like? There are times that you could be doing things that are not even meant for you. That you may not even have, not just the technical know-how, but you may not even have the energy or the mindset to pursue. So you need to ask yourself, what would suit me as an individual? The little income that I have, how can I key into this? Not every startup needs money, by the way. The same money that you use to do your regular data, so you begin to ask yourself, what do I use my data for? Some people use the data to download movies and what have you. So find ways to key in. While you begin to find your foot gradually, it's never automatic, by the way. It's a gradual process. You now find ways to broaden in whatever it is that you're doing. As you begin to meet new people, you begin to have new ideas and new inspirations, have new mentors, new people to look up to. Yeah, it's never too late to start up. Never can tell what will happen.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm going to give every episode. So what we're going to do now is every other question, because of time, you'll only spend 1 minute
All right.
answering them. So there's a question here that says, and I think this is really, really important. What you have described really is about self. And I acknowledge that you have to start from yourself, right? They say charity begins at home. So you can only develop yourself first and restructure your mind before you can accommodate external input, right?
Exactly.
But it's also useful to know what are these external support systems that people who are, because you need to understand, we need to come to terms with the fact that we all don't have equal mental strength and mental resilience. What are the support systems that people should imbibe or incorporate into their convalescence in the event that they have done a self-assessment and know that on their own they cannot achieve all of these solutions that you've come up with? How can someone who is going through mental challenges or let's even put mental challenges aside and just say stability issues, right? How can they overcome this through external support systems? What are those support systems that you would recommend? 1 minute.
All right. So having realized that there is a challenge and you need help is the first step. But then you also need to ask yourself, what are my goals? What do I hope to achieve? Now, sometimes you're talking to someone, the person is listening to you, not necessarily because they want to help you, but they probably want to just have something to talk about. So you need to ask yourself, who are the people that I can look up to? So there are two sides to this. Now, you can have people that you can talk to just so that they have a reasonable listening ear, and that's mental support. However, when you talk to such people, they can then refer you to other people that can help you. So you need to begin to look around your circle. Do I have people that are like me as friends? Do I have my clone as friends? Broaden your friendship circle. The people that you think that, oh, you shouldn't be even talking to or you're completely ignoring might be the ones, to either recommend you or refer you to someone else. So that is not the time to shut yourself from the world or to isolate yourself unintentionally. A simple greeting can strike up a conversation that you can have with someone that can channel you into having a wonderful opportunity. You also need to learn to read books. You need to avoid negative people and negativity.
Thank you. We have 2 more questions for now, but so this next question is, so on the face of it, it looks like it's comical, but I think that it actually has potential in the sense that we don't want to admit it, but it is there. And it's from Celestine saying, home trouble, in quote. Is there a possibility of being overwhelmed by constant mental poisoning from environmental and from the environment that you're in, which is almost like similar to the question I asked initially, and not being able to overcome the instability that follows? Remember that what I had said, you may actually be in a place that you're comfortable in. So let us say that you are in a relationship that is working for you, or you have parents who want you to be in okay, you however want people, your parents however want you to be somewhere else, right? And you get that nagging from them, or you are in a it would have been nice if Celestine had provided some kind of context in this environment. But bottom line is, you then have to marry what is expected of you with what you are comfortable with. So it's not enough to just say, okay, what am I doing wrong? It's you're almost okay with where you are, but you know how you also have allegiance to other people, especially family, right? How do you then strike a balance between the strain that you get from that family situation, which Celestine has termed home trouble, with
All right.
the expectations of yourself?
This is actually more like a Nigerian thing, I would say, something that plays out in a lot of Nigerian homes. So yes, there is an overwhelming effect from pressures at home. And I'm going to use the instance that you just cited. A lot of parents would want to pressure the children to follow a particular course. You could even be picking a particular career that you're uncomfortable with. And then you already have in your subconscious what you want to do, or what you think, or where you think you can thrive in. Now, here's the thing, you need to find a structure. You need to strike a balance. In the course of letting your folks at home know this is what you want to do, you do not need to be disrespectful about it, first of all. You do not need to let them feel like because you're doing your own thing, you're going to neglect them at some point. Okay, for instance, you say you want to get married to a particular person and they have someone else ready for you. So that's not the time to deprive your parents of finances if you have been the one caring for them financially. That's not the time to be rude and disrespectful. However, you are the one that is going to live your life. Your parents have lived their lives. You're the one that knows what works for you. So long as you are sure of the pillars that you're building on, it's advisable to focus on your strengths and your potentials and do what will make you happy while you have built a structure that still keeps your parents happy, even though they don't overall agree with the arrangements that you're making. With time, they'll come around.
Okay, thank you. Unfortunately, the questions are coming in late, so I apologize to people who had thought that this would end at 8 o'clock. I thought it would end at 8 o'clock. However, I think that it's so useful and so topical because I've been, as a lawyer, I've been advising a lot of people on different things, and some of it includes mental stability, mental health, right? So I know that this is really topical. Now, how do you, and this may, without you lending a voice to the use of recreational drugs, but what's your opinion on marijuana, For those of us, all of us came from Wari, so we'll say Morocco and Igbo on the one hand, and alcohol, right, as forms of addressing mental stability challenges. Now, this question is from Onome Ogogosagi. So, yeah.
Okay, for recreational drugs, first of all, you need to have an honest evaluation. So if you're experimenting with recreational drugs for the first time, you'd want to ask yourself, who are my mentors? Why am I doing this? Of what benefit is it for, to me? There are cases where marijuana has been helpful in, sorting out some health challenges. However, it's some form of it is refined, it's processed in some way that it becomes beneficial. So you have like the CBD oil and what have you, okay? But if you're just deciding to smoke yourself out, even though we want to be in denial, misuse of alcohol and drug can be very detrimental. It can affect your brain and damage your lungs in the long run. You can pay for it. It has a way of reducing your lifespan. If you go on the internet and you want to check, the lung of a person who uses recreational drugs and the lung of a person who has never used recreational drug, let's say over a period of 10 to 15 years, you see the difference. So you'd want to ask yourself, what works for me? Now, it's always advisable to speak to an expert, so meaning you'll be talking to your doctor. So if you have a medical challenge that requires the use of recreational drug, your doctor is going to advise you, or whoever is recommending the particular drug will advise you. Alcohol can be very relaxing. It's the misuse of alcohol that then becomes, detrimental. Continuous misuse of alcohol can even, cost you the loss of beautiful potentials. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I think that's the last question. So I would ask you one question as a parting shot, and that is in relation to depression, right? Depression is one issue that, on the one hand, people say use it a lot. On the other hand, it is so scary that some people, especially those who are in depression, run away from the realization that it is what it is. So, summing up everything that you've said around addressing the issue of depression. So this is you closing out, but closing out with depression as a form of mental, as an expression of mental instability.
As far as depression is, as far as depression is concerned, a lot of people are depressed without even knowing it. But if you're feeling sad often, or you're anxious and you feel empty, feeling of hopelessness, you lose passion for the things that you used to show interest for, you start to feel guilt, you're worthless, you have trouble concentrating, with time you begin to experience memory issues, use of misuse of alcohol and other recreational drug, your appetite changes, you start to have thoughts of suicide, there's a lot of restlessness. Or if you have, even when you have like 5 of these symptoms that I have mentioned, the doctor will tell you that you're clinically depressed. Some people experience this and take it as, a normal part of their life. And next thing, you're having body pains and joint pains, headache, stomach upset. Depression can be really devastating. We all feel sad every now and then because of the world that we live in, as we have defined as being very unstable. But then if you feel any of these symptoms and it lasts for at least more than a week, you should talk to someone, and you're unable to pull yourself out of it, you need to seek help. The first person that you should talk to is someone that you feel you can trust. It could be a mentor or a guardian or a parent, or just someone that you feel is mature enough to listen to you. Or you could speak to your doctor so that you can be assisted to gain your stability back. It could be that you're experiencing financial challenge or stress or whatever other challenge that you experience. So depression is, a slow killer, as it were, because If you do not attend to this, the next thing that happens is that it begins to affect your blood pressure levels, which can cause hypertension and stroke, and begin to feel withdrawn. You're unable to attend to family and personal issues or even business suffers. So this is something that we want to focus on. Like I said, your happiness is in your hands. Until you decide to give it to someone else, it becomes their responsibility to make you happy. So when you start to feel like you're sad, and find ways to make yourself happy. Find things to do that on a normal day you enjoy. If it means going out, or speaking to someone that you have never spoken to, pick up your phone, check on someone. Nurturing a relationship is two-sided. So talk to someone, see how you can even help someone. Will help you feel better in the long run.
Thank you.
Yeah, Tega, we lost you there.
To the honors.
Tega, we lost you for a bit. I don't know if there was something you're saying.
Okay, I was actually, thank you for being the one to actually say that. I was saying that it's been insightful, but I'm calling on you, Celestine, to give a vote of thanks and bring this session to an end.
Okay, I guess that's because I asked most of the questions. So anyway, we all agree that this was a insightful session. It's more like a counseling session, which we should have paid for from Omoye, but got this free of charge. Like Crimson experienced, there were several messages she passed, and I was like, this is me, this is me, this is me. So we've gotten enough food for thought, and we should go back to our drawing boards and sort ourselves out. What can we do to improve the stability of our minds in view of the circumstances we're surrounded with? Tega, on the other hand, we thank you for being a good blender of the whole session. You were able to transit it through every stage and pop in the questions. You also taught us a new word, convalescence. I will have to use it in the memo next week. The company's revenue has to be put in a convalescent stage. I have to put it to good use. So thank you very much for your time. We know both of you are busy people, and we appreciate the effort that has been put to this. The whole essence of TMS is for us to keep lifting up each other. We're looking at a time where in THSOSA, there's always one established person an arm's length away from you. And we can only do that by mentoring ourselves and letting ourselves into insights of success that have been achieved by more established members of THSOSA. So on behalf of TMS, I appreciate Omoye and Tega for the effort put to this. For the participants, we appreciate your time. Many were called, but few were chosen. It's not easy to get data to do an hour's video browsing. We understand the stress that might cause, and you agree with me that it benefited for this session. So thank you very much for your time. Be on the watch out. There'll be more programs, more webinars from TMS, and we look forward to further engagement from you all. Thank you. Good night, and enjoy the rest of your weekend.
Yeah, thanks everybody.
Thanks,
Thank
everyone.
you very much, Celestine. Just a few points before we leave. This is a wonderful webinar. I just want to prepare your mind, 2 dates to keep in your calendar. We have 2 very interesting webinars that have been packaged. 24th of July at the same time, 7 p.m. There is going to be a webinar on entrepreneurial mindset. I'm not going to give you the list of people. It's going to be guest speaker and panelists, seasoned entrepreneurs in our association, about 4 of them. So don't plan to miss that. The second one that you should keep in your calendar is 9th of October. And the topic is about becoming a visionary employee. Again, it's going to be given by another very senior citizens of THSOSA, seasoned members of the association who have been very successful. So keep this date in your calendar. They are coming thick and fast. The other thing I'm going to say, we are registering new mentees. So the registration is going ahead. If you want to be mentored or supported in one way or the other, please register. We're also looking for volunteer mentors. So after this webinar, you will get the link. If you want to be a mentor, you know you can support someone, please feel free to fill the form and we will contact you. So thank you very much, Omoye. Omoye is a specialist in health and safety professional, food specialist, also an occupational health specialist. So she's not talking just from theory. So if you can contact her privately, if you are getting depressed and maybe if you have some home trouble like Celestine too, you can also.
Wonderful.
I don't get in trouble now from Google. I collect some.
Okay. All right. Thank you, everybody, for your time.
For this.
Thank you, everyone. No item 7.
No, it's
Thank
coming.
you very much for that.
I don't understand though.
Thank you for answering that. My question was very important. The marijuana question. Very important.
Omoye, your voice don't show you.
Yeah.
Yes,
I appreciate it.
Just a quick question. So 2 things actually. Omoye, could you just share your contact details in the chat so that those who would like to, who may have had questions or that were not addressed, and reach out to you. And also, this now is for Austin. If it is possible for us to get links to the recording so that those who were inadvertently unavailable can actually gain from this session as well.
Yeah, thanks.
I'll do that right away.
I tell you.
Yeah, the recording will be
grammar, not
available
yes.
in the coming days on our YouTube channel, just THSOSA YouTube channel. I think most of the other webinars that we've had are there already. So the link to this webinar will be available in the coming days. It has been recorded, as you all noticed, so it will be available. Yeah.
That's great. That's great.
Okay, thank you.